Hello, Michelle.
Hey,
We are live.
We are live and on the air. We missed a couple of weeks, I think. Amen. Life happens.
Oh, yeah. Things
yeah,
happen. Life goes on.
So, how is everything in your neck of the woods?
mine is busy. We have end of the year celebration for our pre-K class that is this Saturday. A couple dog shows that I'm trying to get treats and everything ready for. It's just nonstop. Mother's Day, Sunday, you know.
What are those locations you're going to be at in case somebody wants to come out and visit your booth?
Awesome. Saturday, I will be at the police department in Douglasville, in spot number 8, and that is from 9 to 9. Hold on, it's 10 till 3:30. And then the 31st of May, I think it is, I will be at the Carroll County Agricultural Department. And I can't remember the times for that. But that one is an indoor event. Saturdays will be an outdoor event. And they are both
Mhm.
dog geared shows.
Okay. Michelle makes doggy treats,
Yeah,
and she even made some human treats the other day, and those look so good.
they are delicious. Took them to work, and of course, everybody loved them. So,
I can imagine. I'm just sharing here in a couple of places for,
How do you get the humans to make the treats?
to get the humans to make them?
Yeah, you should make
you
human
know,
treats.
I was
Oh,
telling I was telling my handsome husband earlier. I always thought I would marry somebody like Bo Duke or Luke Duke, and I got me a cooter.
oh Lord.
I
Destiny,
couldn't
send me
think he's
that link
amused.
also so I can send it over to a couple people.
Okay, I'll text it right to you.
Shank, yeah. And I do have my devices on Do Not Disturb, so hopefully I won't get kicked off again
Mm.
this time.
Justin, we got an interesting show tonight.
We really do. But first, I want to mention that Deep South Paracomic Con is looking for sponsors. And there's a lot of perks being a sponsor for Deep South Paracomic Con. Matter of fact, if you want to know more, and there's a plan for just about any budget that you have, if you would like to be a sponsor, let me know. I got your hookup. I've got all the information that you need, prices of the packages. Michelle, you might even want to do your dog treats. Who knows?
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Well,
So,
honestly, I don't think I'd be able to because it's just I'd have to be registered and licensed in Alabama also. But I have other stuff.
oh well, we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
I am going to share this, just a couple of more places here. But we do have an interesting show tonight. We have been for years. Well, Michelle and well, no, I guess I'm the only original Georgia peach of the bunch of our trio here. Born and raised in Georgia, and all my life I've heard about Lake Lanier. Um, you've lived here most of your life, I guess, Michelle, and Michael's lived here
Hmm.
quite a few years now, so he's officially a Georgian, a Georgia peach, and
Over 14, yeah.
yeah. So um, we have actually been researching Lake Lanier, and it has such an awesome history. Michael, why don't you fill us in, you and Michelle, while I'm sharing this around on the history of Lake Lanier, how it came about being Lake Lanier.
Lake Lanier became Lake Lanier when the government decided they wanted to put in a lake to create more electricity and water supply for Atlanta and the surrounding communities. They had the Army Corps of Engineers come in, and they were trying to buy up the land from the homeowners, the property owners, and they really didn't offer them much money. They tried to make it sound like it was a lot of money, but it really wasn't that much money because you got to remember, a lot of these people was like third, fourth, and fifth generation landowners. So, they had roots in that area. But ultimately, the government won and they
Mhm.
built the lake, but they ended up flooding several towns to do it. And we found out, through research, they also flooded several cemeteries.
Mhm.
And what was interesting is I was looking at photographs of underneath Lake Lanier. Michelle, there's still headstones down there.
Yes.
So if they moved the graves, why are the headstones still there?
Well,
Wouldn't
I
the
mean, it's
family want headstones on their family graves?
I mean, you would think if they went through the trouble of removing the caskets and the remains that they would take the headstones with them, unless, maybe they just said or thought that new location, fresh start, let's put up some fresh markers.
Hmm.
I don't know.
So, the government actually hired morticians to come in and relocate the bodies. And there is stories that some of these people were not really reputable business people.
Hmm.
And it is believed that they didn't actually remove a lot of the bodies that they were contracted to do.
Well, there is a park in Colorado that it is proven that they had hired people to come in and remove the bodies to relocate them um, to create this park. And they would say, all right, well, let's remove a finger, and they would get paid for the entire body.
Yeah.
So same thing could have happened here.
I'm pretty sure it did, from what I've read and researched on this. I think it did happen here. I think, that there was still a lot of remains that never got exhumed and moved. And you got to think now, the lake opened in 1957. That's when they completed it, and it actually opened in 1957. So construction of the lake probably went on through 1956 and 55 and 54. So we're going back
Mhm.
a
Right.
lot of years here, and people were used because of the depression and the way they had to live, and the shortage of money and food. They were used to cutting quarters.
Right. And then you're looking at too these communities, homes, churches, businesses, gas
Yeah.
stations, churches, cemeteries, people, and it's
Hmm.
did they actually did everybody actually leave there? Legend has it that possibly is rumored that some people, older people that lived there, refused to leave,
Yeah.
even though they knew it was going to be flooded. So,
Hmm.
what happened to those people if they didn't
Right.
leave? They drowned.
Yeah.
They drowned,
Yep.
which leads up to the haunted stories
Right.
And
of Lake Lanier.
yeah, there's a lot of haunted stories out there about the lake
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
stuff. We were been researching that too. One thing I want to iterate on too is the Trail of Tears actually ran right through Lake Lanier.
Yeah, and then you're looking at indigenous people who were
Hmm.
removed from the land. So cursed, yeah, possibly.
Right.
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't be happy if somebody came and drove
No.
me off of my land.
I mean, a lot of factors go into it, the possibility of the land being cursed or the lake being
Hmm.
cursed.
Yeah.
There's
But it
been
was
a
Oscarville, right?
yeah,
Yes.
Oscarville.
Yeah. Okay.
It was one of several towns.
Hmm.
Oscarville's, one of the more well-known towns that was flooded. And they did find out recently, that there was a lot of that town still there.
Wow.
Well, divers, they go down all the time.
Yeah.
They take pictures of the old buildings. And keep in mind, there's a forest down there too,
Yeah.
Hmm.
trees.
Which is something because the Army Corps of Engineers are supposed to clear all the trees.
They did do some of them.
Some of them.
But when you go down, it's just like an underwater city, which divers have spoke of when they would dive down into the waters, seeing shadows.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Well, there's reports, a lot of people that's drowned in Lake Lanier, and, near drownings, people's reported that something had pulled them under.
Mhm.
Yeah, and reports of them seeing shadows underneath the water
Yeah.
and hands reaching out of the water.
Right. I mean, even the reputable, like the dive teams and people like that have laid claim to those same.
Yeah, I was reading a little story today. A girl and her boyfriend were staying on the lake and they decided to go for a morning swim. And she says that while swimming back to the shoreline, something grabbed her legs and was trying to pull her under.
Mm.
And that's
Mm.
what a lot of people say. And to me, it's unnatural for somebody who's drowning just to fall off in the water, never to be seen again.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, no struggle, just
Just
fall in the water, you're
gone.
gone.
Well, for one, I
Right.
don't think I'd ever swim in Lake Lanier
Oh,
after
I
all the
wouldn't
stories,
either.
Absolutely not.
legends I've read and heard about. You wouldn't catch me in that water.
No,
Right.
me neither. I definitely don't
Me,
want to go swimming in Lake Lanier.
absolutely not. I've also read that some have said that they hear of a struggle in the water,
Hmm.
or that they hear of calling for help. I mean, I guess like a siren would do, maybe trying to lure you to the
Hmm.
edge, or I don't know. What do you think on that?
I don't know. Anything's possible.
There's a
But
lot of legend there, and there's a lot of ghost stories that's come out of Lake Lanier. It's one of the most haunted spots in Georgia,
Hmm.
which is interesting because you don't hear a lot of people talking about that. So not too far from where we live, we have one of the hottest and more most intense hauntings in the state of Georgia.
Yep.
yeah.
So who knows what's going on there? I think we need to set up an investigation on the shoreline,
Oh
but I'm
yeah, I'm
not
not going
I'm
on.
not getting in the water.
Yeah, I'll
Not
be the
either.
one. I'll be the one tied to the cabin post, just to
That'll
be
work.
sure. Just to make sure.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
I'd
with you
like
on
to
that one.
get a photograph of that lady in blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Ronnie says, surprised they haven't made a movie of Lake Lanier yet. Actually, they have. There
Yeah.
is a full documentary
Yes.
on Lake Lanier. Matter of fact, there's an older one and then one that they just released. Was it last year, a year and a
A
half
couple
ago?
years. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but now I have seen the older documentary where they were talking to people who were telling stories of their family that actually lived on the property, some of the
Yeah.
property that was flooded out. So I definitely want to see that movie.
Hmm.
They actually had they were looking for sponsors, so I actually sent them $20 on there.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah,
But it's
I was like, yeah, I'll
interesting.
help.
If you guys remember, when we were investigating Hell's Bar Dam in Tennessee,
Hmm.
when they were building the dam, they had to widen the bank of the river for the dam,
Right.
and
Sure.
they actually had to flood a town, several towns and graveyards there.
That is true. I forgot about that.
Hmm.
And they've always had hauntings at the dam.
Yeah. We know that.
Yeah,
Oh,
we've
definitely.
experienced that firsthand.
Oh yeah.
So and that's interesting because it makes me think, the trauma of flooding the graves and flooding the towns and moving the people. And some people, like Destiny said, probably didn't go anywhere, refused to leave their property, that
Right.
might it died right there. It's a good uh, pot of mix for paranormal activity.
I could see a grandma or grandpa sitting on the front porch with a
I'm not
shotgun thinking,
leaving.
I'm not going anywhere, and then all of a sudden here comes the water and there they go.
There they go. That is such an eerie thought.
Right, right.
Yeah.
There is a bridge that I want to visit that goes right between the Chattahoochee River and Lake Lanier.
Hmm.
What was the name of that bridge? The Brown,
Yeah, Brown. Uh,
the Brown Bridge.
yeah, yeah. It's a. It
Cheat
is an.
sheet.
It is an interesting thing on that. Yeah, the Browns
Brown's
Bridge.
Bridge. Brown's
Wow.
Bridge.
Curse of the Browns Bridge.
You
That
can read
crazy.
that all
Yeah, I'd
if
like
you
to go
want
there.
to. I made some little clip notes
Yeah.
for us.
So, and there's a ghost story that goes along with Brown's Bridge. In 1958, two ladies lost their lives there. They wrecked a car, and it's said that at least one of them wanders the bridge looking for her severed limbs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, where they never found the body of the second
Yeah,
female
when they
that was in the car with her.
when they recovered the car, they only found one body,
And she was missing her
Okay.
feet and her fingers.
fingers,
Yeah.
Oh
fingers
my
and feet,
gosh. I don't
and
know about this.
it's said that she wanders the bank of the river there and the bridge looking for her body parts, and they call her
Ah,
the lady in blue.
okay.
Her name was, I don't know if you would say Delia or Delilah, Delia.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I've
what
always
got
heard
me,
of the lady in blue, but I didn't know that was
girl, there's always a
wow.
lady in blue or a lady in white. Anywhere there's a
Right?
haunting, those
There,
ladies
there's
are
going to
going
be
to
a lady
show up.
and show out, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember, you got a picture of the lady in white that's been seen out at Budapest.
Hmm.
Remember
Hmm.
that little mist? It was in the shape of a woman in white,
Yeah.
misty white.
One thing I kind of caught my eye too, the correlation between the lake opened in 1957 and these two ladies lost their lives in 1958.
Probably the first death to occur
Hmm.
at Lake
Yeah.
Lanier. Well, what got me researching that is because you had said you had heard about a school bus.
Yes.
You knew there was an accident. Just wasn't clear if it was a school bus or a car or what it
Right.
was. And so that's how I found that story.
Okay. Yeah. I had, made a note about the lady in blue, but I mean, because I've always heard about it, but I just did not realize that she was missing the limbs and she's reported to be
Hmm.
searching. That's wild.
It really is. I was looking at the bridge. It's a long bridge.
Okay.
I don't know if it's heavily trafficked or not,
I'm
Yeah, I
sure.
but
don't
wouldn't
know.
you just like to go take a look and see the lady in blue?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm curious how she lost her limbs in the car wreck.
That's
And
what, yeah.
the body of the other second woman was never found.
It's weird. So now was the car maybe submerged and that's where
Yes, yes, it was
okay.
submerged.
Mm.
Huh.
Yeah, the
Wonder,
reports that they recovered the car when they eventually recovered the car. They had to pull it up out of the water, and they only found one body in the car, and that they identified that body as this Dahlia, or
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Well, you gotta, if the windows were down, people didn't wear seat belts back then.
no, not in
No.
1958.
When I was growing up, we didn't wear seat belts. We'd lay on the back glass of the station wagon and look out the back window. I
We
mean,
did too in the Cadillac,
yeah,
Yeah, a lot of cars in
bouncing between the
1958 didn't
seats.
even come with seatbelts.
right. So if the windows were down, I could see her body possibly, or her trying to escape, being washed
Yeah,
away by, if it's close enough to the Chattahoochee, that's a river, that's flowing water.
right. And she's just gonna be
So
pushed out somewhere
just
else.
floated away.
Yeah. Now has she been located since or
No,
Not that we have found any stories of her ever being
okay.
located. So,
yeah,
Wow.
her story seems to be a mystery that's never been solved.
yeah. So,
Wow.
it makes you wonder, was foul play? Did it play a factor in the accident or not?
Right.
You know,
Do you know what time of year it was? I mean, I know as far-fetched as it sounds, but could frostbite? Well, no, she wasn't there long enough. That other lady was found
Mm-mm.
immediately. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there are reports of huge giant catfish in the
Oh,
river.
that's true
So if you know
too.
where I'm going with that, without getting
Yeah,
a little
Right.
graphic,
Right. Right.
that is very
but
true.
uh, that's something to think about.
But
Okay.
you
And they
know,
are scavengers. So,
here we have another ghost story though,
oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
connected to Lake Lanier and the
Oh,
Chattahoochee, which the Chattahoochee by itself has a lot of ghost stories.
yeah.
yeah.
That just
I
runs down
actually
right by us.
have a friend whose son, um, his body was recovered
Hmm.
in the Chattahoochee. Matter of fact, hundreds of bodies have been recovered in the Chattahoochee River
Yeah.
here
Hmm.
in Georgia. And I'm sure there's rivers in every state. It's just a river thing, I guess. Like, what are we
Yeah.
going to do with you now up the river?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Some of the fishes.
Oh,
I did, research a big portion of the water supply that they're using Lake Lanier for is piped to Florida.
Wow.
So there's a lot of Floridians that's drinking ghost water.
Yeah. Maybe that's what happened to me.
I
Problem
wonder if
solved.
we could go bottle that and start selling it on our table when we go
Ghost
to
water.
Faircons. Ghost water, original ghost water.
Wow.
And
Oh my goodness.
we could always put like a little teeny zombie in it and let it be floating around.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Oh my gosh. But since what? Since it's opening of the lake in the what would you say 57 or
Yeah.
58?
The lake opened in 1957. The two ladies were killed in 1958.
There has been over 700 people that have lost their lives
Hmm.
within, between then and now.
And
And that
that's not
number
crap.
is just,
We're talking 67 years.
Talking
yeah.
boating accidents,
Yeah.
and when the water is down, if we're in a drought, you can actually see things that are close to the bank's edge, like even a boat.
Hmm.
Um, I saw a picture of a boat where the waters had receded from a drought one year, and right there in the water was a boat, like a houseboat, like a houseboat, but not just a rowboat or something. It was
Right.
like it had quarters. You could tell inside of it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
Mm.
there's been a lot of stories too that I found out on Lake Lanier that people's reported that's camped out on Lake Lanier in the middle of the night. They've reported seeing somebody standing just off the shoreline in the water, but standing like it's standing on the water.
I won't be camping there.
No, we can get a cabin.
I
So,
would really
Not with
like
the
to do
snakes we
that.
have here. Uh-uh.
I would like to do a water's edge investigation,
I would too.
yeah.
just to see what we could
Can
get.
you imagine the portal there on the edge of the water doing a portal session, seeing if we
How
could?
I don't know,
active.
but it might be sad.
Oh,
Well,
for
either way,
sure.
I think it would be beneficial.
Yeah.
We may be able to resolve some issues that might help people that they could move on too.
One of the saddest investigations we ever did, um, I believe it was Cedartown. It was right after we got the portal, and there was a boy, his soon to be stepfather, um, had passed away. And the family really thought that because that man loved that boy like he was his father, like he was his son,
Yeah.
and they had the normal father son relationship. And he had passed away, and we had the portal. They brought the little boy in, and as soon as they brought him in, he was basically carrying on a conversation
Hmm.
with his stepfather. It was unreal. I remember all of the team members sat around. We were all crying. I mean, you could feel the sadness. And it wasn't nothing we planned for this little boy to come in while we were doing the investigation. But it was pretty much the moment he walked in the room,
Yeah.
and he knew that that was his stepdad.
Wow.
It was so sad listening to the questions that he asked and the responses that he was getting. It was sad. And I could see the victims of Lake Lanier, maybe still crying out for help or something.
Oh, for sure.
It could be a situation too that these spirits are being trapped into Lake Lanier. It's obvious, there's a curse going on here.
Hmm.
Well, can water act like a Faraday cage for spirits?
I wonder. That's a good question.
Yeah, definitely worth looking into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know mirrors. I've seen people try to or attempt to, or actually, I don't know if they ever succeeded, but using a box with mirrors all around
Right.
and try to trap that spirit in those boxes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I do know several people that's tried
And
that.
it seems like I saw a TV show where they had actually created a box that had water in plexiglass around it, but I'm not 100% sure, but
Hmm.
it seems like I did.
Okay.
Anyway, something to research.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, that would be something to research.
Because you've heard people talk, and I would recommend this too, as being a demonologist and a paranormal investigator. If there's a haunted object or something, and you needed
Hmm.
to get rid of that, you would throw it into a river because the running
True.
water. So I could see where water
Hmm.
might would do
That is
that.
true. Yeah.
Strap the spirits so they could. I don't know. You paranormal investigators, speak up on this.
Let us
Yeah, we'd
know. I
like to
mean,
have
you're
some
not far off on
input on this. What other people may think. I I would really love to see some comments on that.
that. Right. I mean,
Absolutely.
even down to the Ouija board, they say, don't burn it, don't toss it out, put it in water.
Yeah, the way I've always been told with the Ouija boards, you're supposed to separate the planchette from the board,
Right.
and one is buried and the other is thrown in living water.
Mm-mm.
You
I'm
might be
tired
onto
of ever
something,
do that
Destiny.
forever. All of it's going.
I
The
want nothing to do with any of it.
definition of living water, is running water.
Right, right.
Right.
A living river. So I
Right.
don't know. That's the way I've always been told the proper way to dispose of a Ouija board.
Yeah,
Wow.
that would be my advice too.
But, it's hard to say.
So why are we hanging on to haunted objects?
Because
Why do we have these things?
we're
I don't know.
gluttons. We're
Gluttons
You
gluttons.
really
for
are.
punishment.
Yes.
Lord have mercy.
We,
But
we
I've
should.
even read on the lake that, the boaters would have mechanical issues, motor issues, and I even read one thing too where they say they can hear church bells coming from the surface of the water. So
Yeah.
that goes back
Again,
with,
there were churches
them.
in these communities. There had to be. There's
Oh
churches
yeah,
everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I imagine back in back in that time era, it was very popular for churches to have bells.
right.
Many, many years ago, we went to a church out in Alabama down a big old long dirt road. I remember going, the family visiting this church, and I don't remember exactly why, but just before time for church to start, they rang the bell.
Well, even the one across up the street from me, across from the restaurant, up
Excuse me,
until
allergies.
10 or so years ago, the bells would ring.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit longer, but you would hear the bells even at my house of
Yeah,
the church ringing.
they've turned them down. Just past our house down at the Methodist church where the
Hmm.
cemetery that I don't like at night. Um,
Right.
they have chimes that go
Okay.
off. And every Sunday morning from our front yard, you could hear the chimes. And then neighbors that lived a little bit closer complained so much that they had to
Oh my.
turn the volume down to these chimes. But they were beautiful. And I loved listening to those on Sunday morning.
Huh.
You can still hear them if you go by there early enough and roll your windows down. You can hear
Yeah.
the little chime. It's beautiful.
Well, I got an idea. Why don't we plan a trip to this bridge and we'll do a part two on this show and we'll see
Mm,
what we can catch on this lady in blue.
I'm game.
Well, it depends on the traffic on that bridge. We are talking about Atlanta
Hmm.
area, so it would depend on that. Be something we could research out and do, or maybe possibly get it from the bank.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's not just something that's isolated to the bridge.
Yeah,
You know, if she's searching, she's probably going to be looking all over.
yeah.
I say
Well, if
let's do
I
it.
remember correctly, there had been sightings over on the shoreline too.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Okay, I'm down for that.
but they say, the main one is people had claims that when they cross the bridge, they always have car problems, engine problems, and the
Okay.
car will actually stall for a few minutes before they can get it running again. Or they claim that, when they're on the bridge, they have that eerie feeling of somebody behind them.
Yeah, well, I don't want to do that because I saw that movie and it didn't turn out too good for those people.
I would go on the bridge.
I'm playing.
I'll go on the bridge. Yeah.
Playing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd go on
I'm
the
I'm
bridge.
going
game.
on the water.
I ain't
No,
going on the
I'm not
water.
going on the water, but I'll go on the bridge.
I can't swim that good. I doggy paddle.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're not going in the water.
Nope.
But not with the stories the water's had, and it's even grown out. I've heard stories about houseboats on the lake,
Mm-hmm.
and there's been a lot of issues with houseboats.
Okay.
And then so many boat accidents.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much tragedy associated with it. And just that energy alone, you know,
Mm-mm.
multiple tragedies leaves this residue of energy that's kind of, I don't know, you'd have to be real empathic to understand. I know you are, Michelle, to
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying. I mean, when you feel that energy, that tragic energy, anytime we go to a place where there were multiple tragedies, it's like this bad feeling that you get. Oh, we got zoomed in on. What'd you
Yeah,
do?
you did. Michael got
Yeah.
close.
Ooh.
There you go.
But imagine people really don't realize how many tragedies are connected to the lake.
You're talking about over 700 drownings. And
Yeah.
then it's spring. That number's going to go up even more. You know, it's just like, it feels like almost every week during the summer you hear about a drowning at Lake
Yeah.
Lanier. Well, these
Especially
other
in
lakes too.
July.
And it's not just Lake Lanier. You've got Lake
No.
Altoona.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even the one down by your house, one of the guys I went to school with, he went off of his boat and he never came back up. And
Yeah,
that was just a few years ago.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it can happen anywhere, but seven over 700 in one specific place that started, with such a tragic beginning. It's
Hmm.
almost too coincidental.
Yeah. And it was
Yeah.
a tragic beginning right from the get go. It wasn't handled right. It wasn't constructed right.
No.
And the evacuation of the land wasn't handled right.
Yeah. It was all about money.
Yeah, it was.
All
Hmm.
about
Money,
money.
power.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But of course,
Uh,
68 years later, the government doesn't want to take the blame for it. The state doesn't want to take the blame for it.
mm-mm.
Everybody wants to point fingers at somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that might be part of the curse too, until somebody does own up and take accountability. I mean, who's to say that this lake doesn't remember and it's not satisfied and it's going to just keep adding to its count
Yeah.
until that happens,
Well, given we know accidents do happen,
for sure.
But
but it's just the way these accidents happen and the stories behind them. It is not natural for somebody to step off of a boat or jump in the water, never to be seen again. No
Right.
struggle, just jump in the water and you're gone. Just disappear.
Mm.
I
You don't
I've
hear that
watched
about the
people
the
who are about
beach.
to drown and the slapping and kicking they do. I had to save my foster brother's life quite a few years ago. He got in water over his head. And my reaction was to jump in and save him. Then I'm thinking, no, in his struggle, he'll pull me under. And so I found something to toss out to him and pull him in.
mhm.
But he was struggling. I mean, his arms and hands were slapping the water. That's how I picture somebody drowning, not
Hmm.
just jumping in the water and disappearing and never be seen again.
Right.
That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, we
And
have.
a lot of people, they're testing. There we go out now.
I know. Look at you.
We're coming back in. It almost makes you wonder, is there something moving around us making it do that?
I mean, we know for sure there's something that
Yeah,
could
because you
be.
know where we are.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's
Take us to which
amazing
one?
how many stories of that same scenario has happened at Lake Lanier,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
time and time again. And it's over 68 years. There's
That's
nothing
not
but
long.
a history of the same thing happening over and over and over and over.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Almost sounds like a Steven Spielberg movie.
Stephen King?
Yeah.
Well, Stephen King writes it. Steven
Yeah.
Spielberg, he produces it.
Whew.
Oh, those two
It's,
together.
Yeah.
right?
For
I
real.
mean, this could be one of those stories,
Hmm.
like a Lake Placid or something.
True.
Not quite so placid.
Yeah, I don't know if they've seen alligators in this one.
No, who knows? We're in Georgia. It's crazy here.
It is crazy here.
Really
We got
is.
a lot of ghost stories around the
Oh,
area,
yeah.
and
Oh,
we've only
yeah.
scratched the surface over the years. Of all the ghost stories and stuff. And a lot of it, is the tragedy connected with the Civil War, all the needless lives that were lost.
Mm.
It's like my daddy used to say, why can't we all just get along?
Mm. And so, well, not sort of off the subject, but off the subject. We have something new in our house.
Oh,
We've always got something going on at the Fox Den.
yeah, you
Um,
do.
so I was sweeping the hall, and you know how long our hall
I
is.
know the story.
It's like a bowling alley.
It is.
My God,
And
it
at night,
really
it's
is.
crazy.
All you gotta do is put pins at one end
Yeah.
and roll that bowling ball down, and it's just as long. I promise you. Um, so I'm sweeping the hall, and then my intentions were to mop afterwards. Um, so I go down the hall, and I'm just sweeping away with a broom, just sweeping away, and a figure moves up behind me, and I remember glancing around, and I thought it was Michael. So I'm thinking, well, he needs to get to the kitchen or something. And I look ahead of me, and Daddy's up in the kitchen. And so, natural reaction, I knew the kids were in bed asleep, that it was Michael. Well, had I not looked and seen part of a man's body behind me, it probably wouldn't have spooked me so bad. But then it's like, have you ever seen those movies where all of a sudden the way they produce it, it looks like the spirit runs up on them all of a sudden and stops. Then they look
Yeah,
around and nothing's there. That's
right.
basically what happened to me. I felt this move closer. I went to step out of the way for what I assumed was Michael to walk past me because, it takes a minute to sweep. And I looked around and nobody was there.
Hmm.
Huh.
Electricity shot through me. I had chill bumps on my chill bumps. Every hair on my body was standing straight up.
So this felt new.
Yeah, that was definitely new.
Okay.
I was telling Stan and Teresa about it the other night. I don't know where this one came from, but it's definitely different. It
Hmm.
felt different. So,
You think maybe a
don't
hitchhiker or just passing through
I
or
don't know.
Hard to say.
Um, I still have to wonder a lot of times, is it something being pulled in by Levada or the hex box, or
yeah,
still something trying to get it that? I mean, I don't know.
right.
Hmm.
So I guess
Yeah,
I'll always wonder about that based on the video footage that we have.
right.
But that's another
Yeah.
thing that we tossed around today. We were on the TV show Repossessed, episode 2, matter of fact, and we gave the story of the hex box. But we've never, ever really given anybody the entire story,
Right.
No.
and this is going to be amazing if we can get this put together, and I think we can. We're going to do an entire story. Even if it's part 1, 2, or 3, we're going to start recording this. We're going to start filming this, the three of us. And we're going to introduce everybody to the whole story of the Hex Box from
Sounds
the
good.
very beginning
Yeah.
and the travels that it's made with us and
Mm-hmm.
the havoc it's wreaked on
Yeah.
places we go. And I don't know. It's going to be good because the public has never heard the entire story
Right.
from the moment we were called to the property
Hmm.
till today. I mean, on the TV show, we just scratched the surface, just
Right.
barely
No, we didn't give the whole
scratched the surface.
everything on the TV show.
Well, if we got that whole thing in, it would have been like a 2-hour episode. But
Right.
yeah, there's a lot more to it than and I'm sure some of you have seen it on Hulu already, History Channel Canada, other streaming networks, but you haven't heard the whole story.
Mm-mm.
And we've waited a while for this out of respect for uh, the cast members, the great film crew, the great director, everybody, out of respect to give them time to get this out there. We've kind of held back on this,
Right.
but it's time to release the whole story because there's
Yeah.
some crazy details to this.
Yeah.
Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
We're going to go into detail with this thing, and we'll let everybody know about the story.
Right. And show you photographs of articles that were in there. Of course, since air has hit the box, all the articles that were originally found
Hmm.
inside have deteriorated
Yeah.
beyond
That's so
recognition.
sad.
Most
Which
of
in
them,
itself proves
Yeah.
yeah,
that
that it
this
had
was
been underground
legit.
this entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it's only been unearthed, what, well, 5 years now, I guess.
Yeah.
yeah.
5 years.
The strap has completely deteriorated. There's nothing left
Oh,
of that.
wow.
Not enough to even tell what it once was.
Oh,
Um,
man.
of course, the jewelry is still intact that was in the box.
Right.
Um, you just really can't tell much. The
That's
box
sad.
is still in pretty good shape. It's just the wire that was holding it now is
Yeah.
not holding it so good, and I contribute that to taking it around from state to state,
In the belly
traveling,
of
Yeah.
planes
showing it out.
and
Yeah, being packed for air flights, which I don't think we could do that anymore with it.
No.
The doll is still in good condition. Her little dress is
that's
starting to
great.
rot, but when people doubt uh, that this was dug up just in somebody's backyard, the proof is there. Everything was
Right.
intact when it was dug up, and since air has hit it, everything is deteriorating.
That's so crazy.
and I'm proud that it's in our possession, and we're able to take care of it, and knowing what to do
Right.
to keep this curse from being active. It's tried to pick up. It really has, but I don't
Hmm.
want to
Oh
go
yeah.
into all that because,
Mm.
we're going to do a series and let people know, you know, the whole story of
Right.
Levada and the Hex Box.
Mm.
Go into some detail on it
Yes.
and stuff. I mean, there's no reason to hold back at this point.
Right.
The TV show's released. It's been released on several
And I
Network.
think there's
formats.
Mm.
So
people that would really love to know the whole story. There's a lot more to it than the time permitted to be
Right.
shown on the episode. But this goes way back, way back. Events that happen with you in particular
yeah,
with the box. So I'm looking forward to starting this. I really am. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, it is. I'm ready. I
I am
think I
too.
say that every episode, but I'm ready. I'm ready to get back
yeah.
into it.
We definitely wouldn't want to take Levada to Lake Lanier.
No, I don't want to take her to Lake Lanier.
You sure?
Well, when we take her to places and there's other haunted objects, we have to deal with the aftermath when we get home because
That
it
is
seems
true.
to increase her. I know this sounds silly, but it seems to increase her energy,
Yeah,
Wow.
being around other. I don't know that.
Do you think maybe just because like she's a vessel and things might try to attach to her, or do you think it's just her?
I think it's the spirit that was used to bound this curse together. I think it feeds off of other entities' energy.
Okay.
I mean, that may sound far fetched to a few of
Not
you,
to
but to
me.
me, it makes
Mm-mm.
total sense. Michael taking a Gmail break over here.
Uh-oh. Anything
yeah.
good?
Just world news.
Oh,
Trying to keep track of everything that's happening.
But I remember talking about lakes, Lake Altoona. My brother had a little speedboat, and he lived in Mobile, Alabama at the time. And I remember going and spending some time with him in the summer, and we went out on the boat. Where we pulled up at, it wasn't a dock. We just pulled right up to the shoreline. I do remember. I do remember stepping off of that boat and something gripped in my heel,
hmm.
and I bled and bled and bled and bled. Um, it was wrapped good. Ended up at the emergency room with several stitches in my heel. Uh, Looked around the water's edge. We never could find what it was. I'm sure it
Mm.
was a
Oh,
bottle that had been broke, or beer bottle or
yeah.
something, but we never found anything that I could have cut my foot on. And I
Right.
remember my brother's wife said, I think it was one of those lake monsters bit her.
Oh,
And I was scared to
Lord.
death. I wasn't but about 8 years old. I was scared to death of lake monsters.
Oh, wow.
And now, years later, finding out about Lake Lanier and other lakes in Georgia and other places in the world, maybe that's not so far fetched anyway.
And it's funny that you say that because about the same age, I can't remember what lake we was on, but it was my grandparents, my uncle, and my cousins, and same thing happened to me. I just literally walked into the water. We just got there. Campsite's up top. We go down the hill, get into the water, and I immediately, my foot, I sliced it open from heel to toe. And my
Mm.
little bitty cousin literally carried me up the hill and they had to get me, doctored. But same thing happened to me. So who knows?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Oh,
That's why people
Something to
shouldn't
think
throw
about.
trash at lakes. They should pick up their trash when they're done.
100%.
Yeah, yeah, because poor little kids get cut on that stuff.
Hmm.
And speaking of, there's a little place to camp here in Carroll County,
Hmm.
Tanner Beach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard a few little tales about what people have seen out there that have
Okay.
camped.
Hmm.
And it's a place where several drownings have occurred.
Okay.
Adults, children, but I
I
would
don't
like
know
to
much about Tanner.
explore, the water a little bit more on the
Yeah,
Faraday
yeah,
thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Get a little more insight on
Yes.
the Faraday cage. As far as using water. Um, Now, as far as a box, my thinking is on the Faraday cage. I mean, if a spirits has the ability to walk through walls, brick walls, wooden walls, whatever walls, how in the world do you think you're going to trap them in a box and keep them there?
Well, it depends on the components of the box.
The components, um, what am I trying to say? The insides, like you
Yeah.
did say, the water. Is it electricity? What would be you know, the
Okay,
whole
think
thing
about
there?
this. Okay, when we bless a home, what is the one thing that we put around the house, at the
Holy
doorways, in the
water.
floor?
Uh,
Holy water.
But something else, sea salt.
Oh,
sea
sea
salt.
salt. Yep.
So if sea salt's going to keep a spirit out of a home to help repel once it's been
Okay.
cast out, you put down the sea salt, and it's supposed to keep the spirit from re-entering or
Because
being
yeah,
able to cross that.
Right.
Think about the option of water and sea salt, maybe sea water, to build a Faraday cage.
no, that is a
I
good point.
mean,
Ocean water.
you never know.
Right. All right.
Look out, we fixing to build us a box. We fixing to build us a box, girl.
Oh, Lord. No, that is something to definitely think about and research further on.
Add a little holy water.
Hmm.
Who knows what you can come up
Yeah.
with? Only from the mind of destiny you get these crazy ideas.
I
I'm
know.
Yeah,
full of
not
them.
all so crazy
And
though.
full of it too, I guess. But no, it's not, and I spend hours all night long thinking about the weirdest things like this.
I know.
Because now all night long I'll be up to probably maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning trying to figure this out because my brain never shuts down. I'll be constantly like,
Mm.
now, how are we going to do this? Could use plates of glass, oh,
Yeah.
anybody can build a box out there?
Well, I mean, you just look at the basic aquarium.
Yeah.
You could just get one of those beta fish aquariums and probably do the
True.
same thing with that.
Yeah.
But how
Because they
awesome
have
would it
lids.
be to get evidence of paranormal activity at Lake Lanier?
For
Documented
sure.
paranormal activity.
There has been
For sure.
so many teams out there anymore. Um, I don't think I've heard any evidence from any of them yet, but um, I'm going to start researching because I'd like to know what they caught. Before we go, I do want to tell you about Deep South Paracomic Con. There's going to be some cool guests there this year.
It sure
Hmm.
I
is.
mean, such people like Keith Age,
Michael Fox.
the rock and roll ghost hunter, and the awesome and amazing Michael Fox, my cougar. Um,
The Silver Fox.
of course, Lee Brown, her husband, will be joining again. All kinds of cool people. Jessica Lentz. I mean, look at the page, Deep South Paracomic Con.
Hmm.
Also, I believe they're looking for vendors. So if you would like to sign up to be a vendor, go to Deep South Paracomic Con, a portal to your imagination, and fill out an application. Also, they are still looking for sponsors. So if you would like to sponsor Deep South Paracomic Con, there is packages to fit just about any budget, and I can be your hookup for that. just send me a message and I'll go over the sponsorships for you and let you know. And also, um, Brett Wagner
Mhm.
is going to be there
Mm.
for movies like The Crazies. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And all this is at the Ozark Civic Center in Ozark, Alabama. Tony Moran.
Mm.
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah, the
Jason
Jason.
Mhm.
Voorhees.
Yes.
This is going to be exciting. I'm going to make sure I get
Well,
autographs
we've
this
been
year too.
involved with this Paracon since day one. The very first year it came in, and it
Year
keeps
one.
getting bigger and bigger every year. It's
Absolutely.
it's turned out to be one of the premier Paracons in the South.
And it's something different every year. Something different.
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking to see who else was going to be there. So many people. I don't want to miss anybody, so I was just reading off a few here. But you should make plans to go. Make plans to be there. Michael and I will be there. I don't know if Michelle's going to be able to attend or not.
Okay.
Um, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good adventure, and you can hang out with us. We'll
Sure.
talk ghost. We'll talk
Mhm.
anything you want to talk about.
Love it.
We'd love to hang out with some of you guys.
Absolutely.
You
We'd
show
love to
up.
meet you. I mean,
Yeah.
so many people that we've met, even through the podcast, that sent us friend requests and, messaging with you guys. It's awesome hearing your stories and letting us tell some of ours to you. But
Mhm.
that's going to wrap it up for tonight. We have a lot that we're going to be researching now, just off of
Oh yeah.
ideas from the show. I'm going to have to let Stan know that we are done so that he can log us out of here because they are at an auction and Stan can't hear us. So I'll send Teresa. We done.
It's been an awesome show, and like I said, we're going to keep researching Lake Lanier, and we're going to be bringing more and more evidence to light and bringing it on the show to give to you guys out there.
Absolutely. And we've
Yeah.
got so many plans, things that we've planned, and, we just got to make a schedule out for it and get things
Mhm.
done. We've got some big ideas that you guys are going to love, and we'd love to be able to bring you along on this journey through our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. There's going to be different ways that you can follow us around. And also by sending stars, if you've enjoyed the podcast tonight, shoot some stars up there. Let us know you appreciate us. Amen. Why did I say amen? I'm in church, y'all. I'm tired, but amen will work.
Amen.
Amen. Amen, Sister Michelle.
Absolutely.
But anyway, till next week, maybe 2 weeks from now. I don't know. We'll have to let you guys know. But till next time, peace and love. He said wave.